Right. All right, good afternoon. I really do apologize, especially for yesterday's class. My brain was foggy with antibiotics and feeling a lot better. My lungs feel good. So maybe I can get through the class without hacking and coughing up a lung. I'm going to try to pull some stuff together. I've been talking about a lot of different things. I'm going to try not to bore you, but I'm going to talk about some stuff that as you go through your military science career, you're going to see ground operations at times, so you have an understanding. Ignore this for a moment, but on a map you'll see symbols, unit symbols. These are unit symbols. These are all infantry units. A platoon, 3 dots. The Army's built on 3s again. Company, battalion, regiment, brigade, division, or corps would be 3 X's. Then you get into armies, and army groups are more and more X's. The rectangle denotes a unit. Sometimes we'll have numbers designating what it is. Like if, say, it was an artillery unit, and it was a 155 unit, it might say 155 around. So you know that's the caliber of the weapon system you're looking at. And then this could be a battery. Now, where's my eraser? As you get into things, I've talked earlier in the week about batteries, troops, and companies. A company is commanded by a captain. That's like an infantry company, an engineer company, a transportation company. When you get into cavalry, they become squadrons. And if you watch old Western movies, the troop is doing this and the squadron is doing... A squadron is the same thing as a battalion, same echelon, commanded by a lieutenant colonel. A troop is commanded by a captain. So a cavalry troop is about the same size or same combat capability as an infantry company. When you get into artillery, that company size unit is called a battery. So you'll hear terms like battery 1, which means each gun in the battery is going to fire 1 round out. So as you get to the brigade or regiment, like I was in the 1st of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment when I was with the 82nd Airborne Division, but I was in the 3rd Brigade. A regiment is 3 battalions, so those are commands of 3 lieutenant colonels underneath a full colonel, and it's a regiment. It's also a brigade, and you will not see, really won't see this regimental indication on a map or used much because they're all part of the brigade. Now, what I've drawn out here is the old configuration of an infantry division. You've got 3 maneuver brigades. You've got a Davarti division artillery, and in that are 3 battalions of artillery. Each one slices off. They're called, you're going to hear me use the term slices a lot today, because that artillery with a headquarters element, a division support battalion, and 3 smaller battalions, each, or not 3 smaller, but 3 subordinate battalions. Each battalion goes out and supports a brigade. You've got the aviation brigade. That's what the bow tie looking thing is. It's part of the maneuver element of the division, and you can have, depending on the type of division, you can have 2 attack battalions and 1 lift battalion, or 2 lift battalions and 1 attack battalion, depending on the flavor of that division. And then the DISCOM, which is Division Support Command, where you find, if you remember me talking about branches the other day, where you find the ordnance and transportation and quartermaster and medical and all that other stuff. They make up what's known as division trains. Also out here, this is a, excuse me, this is an armored cavalry, or armored battalion. Mechanized is the tank track. Engineered, military intelligence battalion, Sigma battalion, and P company. All those get sliced up, and each of these brigades would get a third of that. It comes out so they could task organize. In fact, on the battlefield, there's inherent weaknesses in the infantry. What do you think the weakness of an infantryman is out on the battlefield?
Visibility. Visibility.
Maneuverability. He's slow, especially if he's light, moving around. But what if he's in a armored personnel carrier?
Noisy. Noisy?
Not really. Vulnerable. You know, your ACU and all that, where a tank has big armor around it, right? So the weakness of the infantry is he's more vulnerable, there's a hard one to say, than say a tanker is. But inside urban warfare, if you're inside the closed-in areas, confines of a congested city or something,
that tank out in the open space is pretty invulnerable to most things. But if you get into close confines of urban warfare, a guy can run up behind where the weak spot of the tank is and shoot something up a tailpipe or in a side take up a track or whatever. So the weakness of the infantry becomes a strength in urban warfare. Artillery, indirect fire, can take care of dead spot. I mean, if you're in defilade behind a ridge line as a grunt, the guys firing direct fire can't get to you, but they can bring artillery in on you, correct? But artillery is big, massive. Even the Paladin, the 155 self-propelled, that can pretty much shoot on the move and all that, has GPS to locate everything. Still, they are vulnerable because it's local self-defense. So you look at the strengths and weaknesses of each of the elements of the combined arms team. In the Army, we talk about combined arms. We want to have armor, artillery, infantry, aviation working together. And in even a bigger sense, special forces and such to work the insurgent type battle. But you take the inherent weaknesses and you fill those weaknesses with the strengths of another combat arm in that combined arms team. The synergy you get, the sum of the whole is greater than the individual parts. So what happens here, as these pieces are sliced apart, you pick up artillery in here, you get some tanks, you get some engineering assets, because they've got some neat toys. They've got combat backhoes. They can, if you're going into a defensive position, they can dig foxholes and tank traps and set abatis and all this other stuff. So a division would sit around and they would task organize when they went to the field. Growing up as a lieutenant and a company commander in this environment, you didn't always, you had a habitual relationship. The same company of armor would come over to you and the same company of engineers, but you didn't have them all the time. So the Army went to something different. It's called the BCT, the Brigade Combat Team. And they have come up with 3 basic BCTs. There's the infantry, which includes light infantry, air assault infantry, that would be the 101st Airborne Division, the 1st Cav, and the airborne infantry. You've got the striker. Anyone know what a striker is? I wish I had.
Isn't it a tank?
No. It's an 8-wheeled reconnaissance vehicle, kind of boat-shaped. Marine Corps uses a lot of them. I tried to get a picture. The technology escaped me. Sir?
Like an Amtrak?
No. That's a tracked vehicle. No, it's...
Amtrak's just 8 wheels, isn't it, sir? 4 on each side.
Do you say Amtrak?
Yes.
The thing I'm thinking Amtrak is a big tank-looking vehicle that's amphibious the Marine Corps uses. Am I missing something?
No, so that's not it.
Okay. Well, the Army calls it a striker. It's kind of... I guess if I finish the wheels, that would help. Along this is a turret on top.
Oh.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
And bustle racks all over the place. You'll if
Isn't it
you've watched
missile
Afghanistan,
defense?
if you've watched Iraq, you've seen them. And I really apologize for not having a picture.
Does the back door open up like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it carries an infantry squad inside. So you've got the. Go ahead. Hang on. They've got the Striker Brigade (BCT), and then you've got the mechanized or armors. The BCT. I'm going to draw the infantry one right now. You have 2 battalions of infantry. You have you know, I had this one part memorized here. Excuse me, let me take a look at a note real quick. So I don't want to write the wrong thing down here. Okay, that's an infantry brigade combat team. You've got 2 battalions of infantry, And in this case, they're light infantry, air assault infantry, or airborne infantry. You have a reconnaissance squadron. So you've got your cav right there with you. Now, in the case of this style infantry, this is Humvees that are upgunned and armored with 50 cals or mod deuces and such. If this were a heavy one, you'd have Bradleys and Abrams. You've got the M119-105 towed howitzer. And then inside this BTSB is all those combat support branches, the engineers, the military intelligence, the MPs and such, signal. And then finally over here is all your old division support commands. So what it is like the 82nd Airborne Division, they have 4 of these. They can be sent out together with the division, or they can grab one and send it to the 2nd ID. All division headquarters in the Army are being configured where they can handle any flavor of BCT that comes to them. So based on the mission, the tactical situation, while we need 2 heavy BCTs, we need a light BCT, and we need a striker BCT. Okay, what division is up next to rotate someplace? 3rd ID is, okay, send their headquarters, send their 2 armor with them, and get them a striker and get them a lights from someplace. And off they go. That division staff knows how to fight those 4 brigades in combat. It's actually a division plus because it's 4 brigades. The old divisions were 3 brigades. What it does is it puts in this colonel, this 06, in his back pocket. He has everything he needs to fight. He really doesn't need anything from anyone else. In the old days, that infantry brigade commander needed to get some cannon support or armor support. He needed to get artillery. He needed to get combat multiplier support in the way of military intelligence folks to go out and provide early warning or surveillance, sculpting the battlefield intelligence-wise. He needed engineering assets. He now owns it. They all work together. I visited one when I was back east, and it is, here you have in one brigade, a complete warfighting unit. It's almost like the Army went out and created little tiny armored cavalry regiments, ACRs, because that's what an ACR was. An Army Cavalry Regiment had infantry, armor, artillery, and all the other stuff. So by making these BCTs this way, you've got the dynamic of you can use all the different division headquarters that you have in the Army, know how to fight these. It's not just, I'm a mechanized guy, or I'm an armored guy, or I'm a light guy, or I'm an air assault guy. No, I am working in division staff. I am a division commander. I've got assistant division commanders, and we can go out and attack whatever the mission is. Give me the resources. I can fight heavy, I can fight mid, I can fight light, and it's nice. All of these, especially the lights and the striker, designed to go anywhere in the world quickly on C-17s and C-5s. The heavy ones take a little bit longer because you're moving Abrams and Bradleys, but you're still getting them there. And it's it's almost a boomerang back to the combat command concept of World War II, where divisions split into 2 combat commands, Combat Command A, Combat Command B. They go out and prosecute the war with all the pieces they needed. Now, you've got a division commander that goes, I need some light, I need some rapid response in the case of striker, and I need some heavy punch. You know, and when do you think that you would really need to have that armor along?
RPGs or the rocket-propelled weapon.
Well, that's a weapon system against it. If you were out fighting and you had Humvees and strikers, at what point do you think you'd need to bring a tank in? Why would you need a tank against your enemy?
If they brought in tanks. They brought in tanks?
They brought a tank. That's right. And so as things escalate up, if he's got tanks, you want tanks. No jokes about you're welcome, okay? Tanks, you're welcome. See, I'm feeling a little bit better. Just my jokes are bad. You know, you want to, again, as I was talking yesterday, when we're fighting the war, we follow the Geneva rules, absolutely. But the objective is to go out and win. It's like a business. The reason a business is a business is to make money, period. Make the stockholders happy. The reason we go have to fight is to stop the battle from going any further. Come in with overwhelming numbers. If you don't need a tank, don't take a tank. Take what you need to win. But if he's got tanks, you want tanks. What's the best thing to kill a tank with? Another tank.
I'd say even a B-52.
A B-52?
And goes on our
Are
shoulder.
you serious?
Tank busters.
Oh my goodness.
Not the best ever tank is A-10.
That's right, you are enlisted in the Marine Corps, I understand now. The best thing to kill a tank with is another tank.
A nuke? You want to wipe out this surrounding city?
Yeah, there's a little thing called collateral damage there. Yes, sir.
Even Marines worry
I'm
about
sorry, one at a time, my ears.
Technically, the best weapon to kill a tank is an A-10 because tanks can hurt each other. An A-10 can hurt a tank, but a tank can't really hurt an A-10.
Unless you're really
Do you really want to test that?
Unless the tank's like lucky and just for a really, really good shot. I don't
Do you know what
think
the
you're gonna hit
speed? Do you know what the speed of a main gun tank round is? The Sabot?
Save it round.
Right about a mile a second.
Can we all just get
Now, can an A-10 fly that fast?
Oh yeah.
this fighting is tearing us?
No, he can't. That A-10s and attack helicopters are both a little wary of main gun tank if you're in the wrong place. Now, is it unlikely a tank's going to shoot an A-10? No, that's correct. But there's a lot of other things out there. Still, the best weapon to kill a tank with on the battlefield is another tank. Now, there's a lot of other things out there that work well, but still, really, a tank is designed to kill another tank. Now, we in our inventory have a lot of other things out there. I mean, attack helicopters are designed to kill tanks. The tow, ground mount tow, the I-tow vehicle, all these things are designed to kill tanks. The problem is, most of our opponents these days, what are they driving? Pardon?
Camels.
Pickup truck.
Pickup trucks,
Hybrids.
right? Hajis with M60s and 30 cals in the back that were fighting the insurgent force. So the pitched battle of bringing a tank against them isn't as, we've got them out there, but what are we going to hit with them? We're not fighting tank on tank. That happened during the Desert War. Once we vanquished Saddam Hussein, everything's been light infantry and foot soldiers. Yes.
I heard that they keep tanks in case like Russian.
Oh no, we still have a reason for tanks. I'm saying what we're fighting right now in Afghanistan, what we fought in Iraq once the battle was over, we weren't fighting tank on tank or mech on mech.
Have we developed anything to counteract their it's like a lighter, faster kind of vehicle to use against their
They had a ferret.
Well, that's where the Stryker started coming online, and they've come in, and the armor that's on the outside of the Abrams, gosh, my brain stalled. I'm feeling better, but I'm not 100% obviously. I had Bradley flash through my mind for a minute. The ballistic armor is classified and how it works, but they've been doing a lot of things to Stryker to make it better suited to handle the low intensity IED type of conflict. That with any type of escalation, if you are in a slap fight with your buddy, you're going to learn to counter his slap and come in better, and he's going to learn how to counter your slap and come in better, and pretty soon that same thing goes with weapons. So we've had to rehone a lot of our insurgent fighting skills and come back. In Afghanistan, for example, you guys know what an IED, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Improvised explosive device.
And our ground penetrating radar that the engineers were using was good down to 24 inches, more or less. So they started burying these mines more than 24 inches underground. So they'd come by and sweep, couldn't be found. They started using the carbon out of batteries in the fusing devices because electrical charge will go through it, but the carbon doesn't show up on a metal detector and such. The sector my son was in, they were, I guess we don't need this. Right down. This is ground level. It's come down 24 inches in place of mine, or IED, right? They were put in far enough down to where they were not showing up on the ground penetrating radar that the engineers would use. They were creating a column of dirt, crushable pottery, whatever, on the fuse. All manner of debris in here. You walk over it, it doesn't go off. You walk over, it doesn't go off. Vehicle goes over, it goes off. You walk over, it doesn't go off. You walk over, it doesn't go off. It keeps getting crushed and crushed and crushed till finally you walk over, it goes off. There were 2 OPs where my son was, about 400 meters apart. They would go back and forth daily. They had NODs, night observation devices, surveilling the area. It was swept all the time. They don't know when the mine was put out there, but patrol was walking. Guy stepped on it, was killed. The guy behind was killed. The third guy back was knocked down with some injuries. They don't know when it went in. You know, the insurgents have learned how we find what they do, and they are taking steps to make it more difficult for us to disable this stuff. And as we find that out, then no, I mean, it's just part of the I don't want to use the word game, but it's kind of the game. It's the dance that's being done. It's a deadly dance. Anyway, sir.
Have you heard of the vehicle that they created to sort of deflect IED blasts? It's got a straight V bottom. I think it's called a Bulldog or a Warthog or something like that.
Yeah, in fact, there was a article went around. I can't remember if it was Iraq or Afghanistan. One of these was moving along the road. Some kids were on the side of the road playing. And it's a large, massive vehicle.
Yes,
it also has outriggers. Yeah, it's V to where it's going to blow the blast out. Has massive outriggers on it to help detect mines and set them off. Some kids were playing. A soldier jumped off to get the kids out of the way. They thought the vehicle had gone by when really he hadn't. He saved the kids and he got killed by the vehicle. Unfortunately, we don't hear about that in the news very much.
How did you get killed by the vehicle, sir?
He got run over by it.
Oh, wow.
It was a big vehicle. A young man named Stephen Priest went through basic and advanced individual training with my son. He went directly to the 82nd. My son went up to Bragg to go through some other training he was in special forces training until he got a viral infection. Priest was in one of those vehicles and took a hit. He's now learning to walk on artificial legs. They're a good vehicle, but still there's at times flaws in the system.
Well, do you think that the blast would have killed him if he hadn't been in that vehicle?
They think most assuredly so, because he had some pretty severe. He had some damage to his ribs and shoulder blade, getting a cramp, and such. They had and both his legs gone, and
so it saved his life. But
it did save his life. Yeah.
But no system is perfect.
No system is. I mean, there's.
If they put a huge 105 5mm firing round on the striker, it wouldn't even be perfect.
I know when I went through our artillery training, they took a 155 round. During artillery training, you learn about how to call for and adjust indirect fire. You go work a gun crew, all that stuff. And then you go downrange. You're in a bunker, concrete bunker with vision glasses, or vision port, glass where you can see out, and you call artillery in on yourself. And we're trying to bring it in on our bunker, and I think we got a couple hits. And then they had a 155 round sitting out in front of us with a fuse coming to it, and they command detonated that. Have you ever been where something big happens and you can see it and feel it before you hear it? And it was like, that thing went off, and it was like, it was impressive. Then, they called ceasefire, and we went outside, we did crater analysis, and you find out, you think of shrapnel as being little pieces, and you find big pieces of shrapnel around.
So the metal expanded?
Where it's designed to pull apart and frag out. There's a reason they call it. I don't remember. You're talking 30 years ago. I can make up a number, you'd believe me, right? Okay. But I won't do that, because then somebody will go, wait a minute, E4s aren't sergeants. Anyway, now that I'm not ashamed to say I don't remember, but there's a reason the Army, the infantry is called the Queen of Battle because everyone serves the Queen, and artillery is called the King of the Battle. And you really can reach out and touch something with artillery and close air support. That for a long time they referred to the attack helicopters as AFA, aerial field artillery, because you can come forward and fire the rockets and such. But anyway, back to what I erased. The brigade combat structure, BCT, Brigade Combat Team, gives our country and our leadership of our country and the leadership of the Army the flexibility to task, organize, tailor a force to the threat. If it were a Panama type thing, we could sit there and send down airborne and light infantry and maybe a striker element. If it's a little bit bigger than that, maybe they've got motorized vehicles around, we send down armored BCT or heavy BCT also. They're all around 36 to 3,900 soldiers per element, and it's a self-contained, homogeneous fighting force. That's the key to it, is you pick up this brigade combat team. That staff is used to working together. That 06, that colonel and his planning staff, his subordinate battalion commanders and squadron commander, artillery commander, they live and work together 7 days a week. They know each other. They know their strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of strong esprit de corps in these elements. And they're able to pick up on short notice and go and fight. They're used. It's not like, wow, I haven't seen you in 3 months since the last time we're in the field. You're together all the time, and that's powerful. Once you're on the battlefield, you don't have a lot of tight interaction between brigades when the battle's going on. So that's why a BCT from this division, BCT from this division can work out, because you're going to have liaisons and lash-ups to where you don't have a weakness in what you're doing. But so much like what's been going on in Afghanistan, they go to a forward operating base, a brigade, a BCT has a couple FOBs, forward operating bases, and the forces are out from there. And it just makes for better unity of command. I guess we could have got into all the principles of war and such, but we're running out of time. Any other questions about BCTs? Yes?
So they're pretty much perfect fighting system almost.
I don't know if I'd use the word perfect, because perfection is
something solid.
It's in the eye. Now, that's in theory, they're very dynamic. They can adjust and adapt to rapidly changing situations. But now we get into how well trained are they? Is this unit in North Carolina as well trained as this unit in Southern Georgia, or this unit in Northern Washington? The standard of training standards that organizations are brought to. That's where you get down to go look in the mirror, the individual person side of it. That's where you as future leaders, you look at stuff in the mirror and go, not on my watch. I'm always going to give the best I can every day. But it's taken us to a better evolution of how to fight, prosecute battles, because the things we're grappling with, I think I talked about a little bit yesterday. Saddam Hussein did us a great favor. He put this huge armored force out in the middle of the desert with the target saying, come, attack me. And that's exactly what we did. We kicked his butt back up into his country and top of a statue, right? And it didn't take long.
Just sheer impunity?
Impunity.
Well, not impunity, just sheer stupidity?
Him?
It's just sheer stupidity? Just, hey, come get me. I know I can take
Well, I don't know. He thought he was...
Overconfidence,
He thought he was, in some cases, reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, or his army was, and the resurgence of the Babylonian Empire. I don't know. But he was certainly deluded. I mean, he went from being in charge of a country to where we found him in a hole, and then he got a little hemp necktie, and they hung him one New Year's Eve or something like that. But he believed that he believed his own rhetoric. He believed his own press clippings. When we came the second time, some of the worst sandstorms to go through, and we still continue to fight. That's how good our weapon, our all-weather capability is. I mean, the sand was affecting air filters and things like that more than it was our ability to see through stuff. Yes, sir.
How did we know exactly where he was, in that certain hole?
A lot of intel and searching. Don't you know it? He's the largest man ever committed.
I don't know. There's some documentaries out about how it came down. They finally found him, but there were a lot of assets being spent on trying to find him. A lot of money being spent trying to get people to turn on him. He had gone back to his cultural home, ancestral home, and so people were protecting him. But also reached the point where he became more of a liability than an asset, I guess. But after the war was over, we got into the insurgent battle. And so a couple guys with the ability to make a bomb, and we don't like you, so we're going to try to blow you up. And it's the insurgent battle is a difficult battle to fight. We're still grappling with that. I'm sorry, what?
Especially when they attack your home turf.
With your hands in front of your mouth.
Sorry, especially when they attack your home turf.
But any questions about any of the other stuff we've covered this week, or failed to cover this week when I was in a sick and stupor?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever consider being a ranger?
Did I ever consider being a ranger?
Did you?
I was. Or I did. No. Let me rephrase that. I was at Ranger School. I was married. My wife was pregnant. She went into premature labor. Ranger School removed me so I could deal with that. Unfortunately, the child was buried in Fort Benning and lived about 14 hours. And the Ranger Department that were a group of guys that were right in the middle of your stuff, just harassing you all the time. You are worthless, get down, crawl, and all that hazing turned into the greatest support organization. One of the guys went to help me pick out a casket because there's a tendency of the one that showed me was like a cardboard box with fabric, and I'm going, that's my son. And he goes, no, that'll be fine. Really, it's going in the ground. And he was right. You know, you kind of want to spend a lot of money on something that's not necessary. And then large element from at that time, 3rd Ranger Company at Fort Benning came to the memorial service, the funeral, the interment at Fort Benning. And after that, I went to jump school, and I was in the process of going back to Ranger School because to me, you know, infantry, airborne, ranger, pathfinder, jungle expert, all these things, right? And I had a wife that had just given birth and had no baby to hold. And psychologically, she wasn't doing well. And I was on my way back out to Ranger School. And happened upon her one day when she didn't know I was around and saw a psychological wreck. So I did not finish Ranger School on the 82nd and never made it back. But the thing about Ranger School, especially in a light infantry unit, the patrolling tactics, how you work, at Ranger School, you're put through a lot of stress, and it's good. The period of time I was there, I learned a lot about myself. Of I'm not going to give up. You know, some of it was fun. I mean, this Life for Life, the confidence course. Crawling through, they call it the worm pit. It was a barbed wire with water, and the cooks would go out and dump the garbage in there. There was word that the ranger instructors would go out and urinate in it. Wouldn't be surprised. But they would go out and break the ice on it first to crawl through. The hand-to-hand pit was sawdust, and in the mornings it was like blacktop. You know, you kind of break it up. It got to where when we were done with the morning routine, you come back, and you just hose yourself off with a garden hose outside. That water is actually warmer than the stuff in the showers. And I've been cold many times in my life since then, but never as cold as that. From that, I know I was able to do that. So just a couple weeks ago, our water heater stopped working. And it was a Monday morning. I had to take a shower. And I went in, I got to start my morning with a shower, and I was in there going, you know, the cold right out of the well. But it was colder at Fort Benning than this. I could get through this. And I walked out going, stop. It's stupid. Man, all this. But, you learn things about yourself in school like that. If you ever have the opportunity to go, whatever branch you're in, if you get a chance to go, you learn a lot about yourself and fellow men. It's a good school. You learn patrolling. You learn how to prosecute unconventional warfare also. Not to the level that Special Forces would. That's an entirely different school, but Ranger School is a good school. My hat's off to Ranger qualified folks and Ranger units. They earn their pay. Any other questions? Come on, man, we've got more time. You're serious? There's no questions about any of the lives, any of the stuff I've taught this week? Oh, boy. You guys are too easy. It must be Friday. Yes, sir.
Did you always want to join the Army?
No. No. I think I talked about that a little bit on Monday. When I was in community college, I went down and checked into Air Force ROTC at San Francisco State, and there was a bit of a lag. How I actually ended up in the Army, I was at a different community college a few years later. I had hurt myself snow skiing. I had my leg rebuilt. I was on crutches. I was in a political science class, and they brought in a member of the American National Socialist White People's Party. Care to guess what that stands for?
What?
KKK.
Actually, it was American Nazi and KKK both. And he came in and talked, and that lecture hall was packed.
It was jam-packed full of people. I mean, there's like 300 people in there. Pardon me?
Why was it jam-packed? So were they interested in what they had to say?
Yeah, well, they were angry at him. You know, the guy was, this was like 1974, and he was spouting his racist agenda. And the room was so, you know, our political science class was about 20 people normally, but people came in to listen to this ignorant fool talk. That's my feeling about him. When it was over, because I was on crutches, it took me a while to get out and slowly got my way out. And these folks start coming in. There was a guy in uniform. And the guys that I normally talked with in class, afterwards we stood there for almost an hour talking about, wow, that guy was the guy that spoke to our class. It's scary to think there's people like that walking around, this white supremacist. We talked long enough, the class got over, and this class was the ROTC, Army ROTC class, and this captain came out, and I started talking to him, asked if I could take his class. And so I joined ROTC, and then got to know more about the Army. Man, I'm glad I did. I like the Army better than the other branches. Nothing against all the good-natured inter-service rivalry aside, that, you know, I like the Army, other people like the Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy. You know, that just like I was talking earlier about armor and infantry, those combined armed teams work together. The weaknesses of one is overcome by the strength of the other. When you put the joint picture together where the Air Force and the Navy and the Army working together, it's, well, ask Saddam Hussein how it worked for him, you know. He saw the true might of the American combined arms operation, the joint environment, come at him, and it didn't work out too well, you know. I think I told you the only regret I had was not that I joined the Army, is that when I was given the opportunity to, in a sense, leave the infantry and go to aviation, I was offered special forces. And I wish I had done the special forces instead of the aviation. Which all those pilots I served with would probably go, you turncoat. But anyway, any other questions? So everyone wants to go out and join the Army now?
Yes, sir.
All right. You guys have been great. I really thank you for putting up with me while I've been sick this week. I mean, I've not been contagious, but I haven't been at the top of my game with some of the classes. I'd like to get one or two of those back and teach you a little bit better. There's so much to talk about in the Army and how it fits in with the Air Force. I think I did talk at one point when I was here a couple weeks ago that, you know, when the Air Force was created out of the Army and why that had happened, there's an attitude, I refer to them as knuckle draggers, and that's some of the combat arms in the Army, that, you know, and there is a degree of jealousy and mistrust at times within the Army of the ground forces to the Army aviators, because we fly in, do our business, and fly back. And that's how the Army has looked at the Air Force at times. But I'll tell you what, if you're out in a forward location and you need fire being brought in, and F-16 or A-10 comes and starts dropping munitions, suddenly there's no doubt in your mind the Air Force or the Navy, the F-18s, they're the best branch in the military because they're putting steel on the target to keep the enemy away from you. Yeah. And that's, you know, all that you've heard Colonel DeKemper talk about, also all the inter-service rivalries and such. It's like when you watch the Army-Navy game and you've got these two teams out there going at it, yet every man, or if it's the Air Force playing the Navy or the Army, every man on that field will willingly give his life for anyone who stands watching. And a lot of people don't get that about the profession of arms, that we're willing to defend our country. I look at folks that, when I went into the service, it was post-Vietnam, people would talk about, it's not why I went in, but, you know, education benefits, and you get a job after college. I wanted to serve my government. I wanted to serve in the military. I knew from 8th grade I wanted to do it. I look at the young men and women that are going in now. I look at those of you that are, you know, you're not that far from, some of you have already enlisted, others will be graduating soon and look at serving your country. You know exactly what you're getting into, and I take my hat off to you humbly that you are willing to say, this is my country and I'm going to defend it. And something you learn in the professional arms, you never do it for a thank you. You never do it expecting somebody to walk up and say, thank you for what you did. Because in my case, it's a choice. I wanted to do it. When people thank me, I kind of get uncomfortable. I say, you're welcome, but I did what I wanted to do. But in advance, if any of you ever do go and raise your hand and say, I will support and defend, I say to you right now, thank you. Because it takes young men and women going out and saying, this country is great, it's got its flaws, it's got its warts, there's, but bottom line, there's still not a better one on earth. And what we do for the rest of the world. And it takes folks like you going out and saying, this we will defend. Well, that's an Army saying. Sorry about that. Now, actually, the recruiters not recruiters, but the DIs on their breast patch, it says, this we will defend. But that's what we all say. That I haven't seen the new Red Dawn movie. I remember when the first one came out. But guys saying, this is our country, man. Don't mess with us. Leave us alone. Don't mess with us. Anyway, let's go ahead and shut this